Welcome to episode 4 of RAID DAT BASE, where we search the entire internet for the most popular base designs and put them to the test, for educational purposes only. So our first base today will be this absolute monster of a base. The builder's attention to detail was astounding in the build video. This is a seamless multi-TC base with 3 roof bunkers inside that still work after the September patch. Now I wouldn't be too surprised if it could handle the 80 plus rockets it's listed at, but I mean 80? Well, that's a pretty big number, isn't it? I have all of the stuff I need to raid. We'll need to take out a couple of turrets too, so I have some instants for those. The first thing we're going to do is come to the right side of any of these external buildings and take out these 2 stone walls. With those down, we have 2 turrets to deal with immediately. One up there, and there's also one behind this door being activated by an HBHF sensor. I'll take out the one on the base first by aiming 2 instant rockets at the wall behind it. This should ensure it spreads all over the turret. We'll use 2 more instants on this turret in this room. Once again, aiming behind it is the way to go. Next, we'll break the outer shell of the base by aiming 8 rockets to take out 2 walls and 2 foundations. You could go for 4 walls here instead, but as you'll see soon, it doesn't really matter. Now we have access into one of the bunkers. There really is no choice but to go through the HQM wall next. You could save yourself 4 rockets if you want to risk aiming through this gap, which will break a garage door and glass window while damaging the wall. I'm not going to do that in the video. I'm just going to jump on here and take out the HQM wall. The first 2 aimed here, which will also break the hatch. We can now see into the second floor, so our next 3 rockets will be aimed to hit the wall and the garage door above, making the best use of our sulfur. We can see a loot room behind that glass window. No need to raid through it though, because our natural path to breaking this HQM wall will naturally open that room up. 5 more rockets and the 1 sheet metal layer is gone, and we are left with weakened soft side sheet metal. 2 more rockets and those are gone, and we have access to that vending machine loot. This is just a bonus though, as our main objective is still the HQM wall. We can now go to the other side here and splash more towards the center. It will only take 3 more rockets now. Now it should be very clear why aiming behind this wall would have saved us the next 4 rockets. Now this base is pretty much symmetric, so no matter which side you go in through, you will see different things as you go, but you'll end up with the same result, if that makes sense. On this side we have the TC, which will take 4 rockets to get to through that glass window. We want to splash this window on the right, and we also want to avoid hitting that sheet metal floor because that will waste rockets. All the 3 loot rooms are equally secured, which means we have gotten 33% of the main loot in my mind. Once you have access to the TC, you can break it with Explo. With external TC coverage being perfect here, it is impossible to place a new one, so don't even bother trying. 1 more rocket will break the metal half floor, and we want the next 13 rockets to be aimed at this corner. This will pretty much open up the rest of the base. We'll finish them off with a little bit of Expo ammo since we put damage onto the TC earlier. Behind this right side wall is main loot room number 2, and behind this one is loot room 3. We now have 100% of the main loot. With no building priv, both of the windows will still have to be raided. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a spot that splashed both of them, so we have to do them one at a time. There are multiple ways of doing this, of course. You can do 3 rockets and Expo like I just did here. 2C4 is the most efficient, and my favorite way is simply with 4 rockets, which will give you the most splash into the base. As you can see here, when you use Explo instead, there's no guarantee of damaging the rest of the room. This would be a finished raid as far as I'm concerned, but to be fair, there are a couple of more loot rooms scattered on the second floor, but they are only behind 8 rockets of protection from the outside, and I doubt there's main loot in them. So in conclusion, this base cost me 54 rockets and 109 explo, which is roughly 78,350 sulfur. It also took me about 7.5 minutes to raid. The clock didn't account for all the video cuts. Now 80 rockets is a little bit of a stretch for me. I guess if I raided all the external TCs, you could add 24 rockets to the total cost, which gives about 80, but realistically, people who own a base this size are not storing their main loot in 8 rocket external TC setups. Our next base is a solo duo trio base design. It unfortunately doesn't seem to have a raid cost listed as far as I could tell, but I am interested either way in how strong this base is. But if you want to take a guess on the raid cost, let me know what it is in the comments below. Well, let's go. So as you can see here, with the turrets correctly placed, it's pretty hard to skip them all. So the plan is to raid through this side, and although it is possible to skip it, I think taking out one turret here is best. So from a safe distance, we'll start by using 2 ensign rockets, which will break the turret pretty easily. You must aim a bit higher to account for the drop. If you're intent on skipping these, simply line up the turret with the 2 wall frames in front of it, and you should be able to run all the way up to it. The fire will take a bit to burn out, but the turret will break. Next, we'll use 4 rockets to breach the outer shell on the first and second floor. My intent here is to make entry into the second floor first. Sheet metal over HQM usually indicates the core living space in a base this size, so I'll continue to breach the second floor while putting damage on the HQM wall in case I need it later. This will take a total of 8 rockets. We're starting to see basic deployables now with that repair bench and large box. Next we'll use 3 rockets to take out those 2 garage doors to get in further. We'll have to go in and check after this. Now we have access into the second floor, so let's go ahead and go up there and take a quick look. Now we're going to take out these 2 garage doors, but we will need to stand a bit further away for them. The easiest way to do this is just to grab yourself a build plan and build out some twig floors. For these 3 rockets, your back will be exposed. There is a lot of coverage from the rest of the turrets on this base, but you'll want to get through this part of the raid as quickly as possible. With those gone, we can see we are getting pretty deep into the base for the amount of rockets we have used this far. If there are no external TCs like in this case, it is best to first get TC priv and then we can take off these windows instead of using 4 rockets per. We'll be aiming low for the rest of these rockets because we want to make sure that we splash all of the HQM floor tiles as we breach through the garage doors. Basically here, we're just going to keep breaking garage doors as we splash the floor. The main goal is to break the HQM floors since this is the cheapest way. You can also break the bed here at this time if you want. Now we can see 2 HQM floors. We'll splash both while hitting the garage door on the right as well. This garage door was actually the main loot room's elevator, so you can see why putting damage on that HQM floor is so important. We'll also skip rocketing the windows here since we'll have TC priv soon enough. Now it just comes down to finishing off the rest of the HP on the HQM triangle floor. This will take a few more rockets and then we will have an exposed tool cupboard. Victory lies right beneath us now. With the base this big and this much booms happening, it may be wise to place a TC so that you can seal off the breach and not get sealed in by the base owners. I would put the TC here and seal it off completely. The loot rooms are all still closed behind glass windows, so once the TC is in, the raid is won. I would also seal the breach with some walls and a couple of doors. This is even more important if you plan on raiding further into the base through the rest of the door paths. For me personally, I would consider this a finished raid. We have access to pretty much everything, and I would be confident I got all the good loot out of this. That is, as long as I remember to grab my hammer and actually open the loot rooms for the video. The main loot room is right here, which was originally next to the TC. The secondary main loot is this one down here. There are of course a couple of more boxes on the door path leading to the front, but due to their lack of security, I wouldn't count on the loot being passed here too. So in conclusion, this base took me 35 rockets and 24 expo to raid, which is roughly 49,600 sulfur. It took me about 5 to 6 minutes to raid it and seal it off. So that's the exact raid cost, and I can hear all of you deleting that guess you put into the comments section earlier. Don't lie to me. I know you're doing it. Either way, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. See ya! And by the way, not knowing the raid cost still has my head spinning.